Hello, everyone, and welcome to the subject Understanding the Self. Now, the meaning of understanding the self is having insight into one's own behavior, attitudes, strengths, and weaknesses. It is the individual's ability to say and know what he or she is good or needs to improve. Self understanding is actually one of the highest goals in psychology. Now, I would like you to look at this diagram. Here, you will see the nature of self and the many views of self. Now, this seeks to answer the question, who am I and what am I? In order to do that, in order to fully understand ourselves, we'll discover several perspectives, one of which is physical perspective. Another is the anthropological conceptualization of self, meaning the self as embedded in culture. Another one is sociological perspective, that the self as a product of society. We also have psychological perspective and of course the self in Western and Eastern thought. Now I'd like to emphasize that the perspectives of self is not just limited to these. As we progress to our lesson, you'll discover many more perspectives that will help you discover yourself. Now, to start with our discussion with the philosophical perspective of self, I'd like you to answer this question. Now, please share your answers in the comment section. Please pause the video so that you can share your answer. Okay, thank you very much for participating. I'd like to emphasize that self is something that a person shapes or develops. Now, our self does not develop in an instant. It takes a long period of time. In fact, from conception or birth up to the time that we leave this earth, we can say that our self is continuously developing. Now, the self also includes our soul, our ego, our identity, our character, our attitude. Now, the self is the sense of who we are. It is who we find ourselves. It is idea. It is our idea of who we are. Now, in the philosophical perspectives of self, we'll start with the different philosophers and their perspectives or their ideas of self. Okay, let's begin with Socrates. Now, we all know that Socrates is a Greek philosopher and is the father of Western philosophy. Now, according to Socrates, the soul existed before the body, and that the soul is very intelligent. And when the soul is born, it forgets everything. Now, later on, we'll discuss more of that, but I'd like you to look at the famous or one of the famous quotation of Socrates that an unexamined life is not worth living. Now, in order to discuss this, or in order for us to gain more understanding about this statement, I'd like you to first grasp the idea that, according to Socrates, there are two realms of reality. One is the physical realm. The physical realm, according to Socrates, includes the body. It is changeable, imperfect in a physical world in which man lives. So, our body, including everything that is around us, everything around us that is tangible, that we can see or that we can touch, is part of the physical reality or the physical realm. Next, we have the ideal realm. The ideal realm, in contrary, is unchanging, internal, immortal, and perfect. Now, this includes intellectual essence of the universe, the concept of goodness and truth. So, um, according to Socrates, every man is composed of body and soul, and that every person is dualistic. All right. So, um, we all live in the physical and in the ideal realm. Now, another important contribution of Socrates is the introspection method. I believe you've heard about the Socratic method or the art of questioning. The Socratic method is a method of inquiry that seeks to explore complex ideas, concepts, and beliefs by asking questions that challenge assumptions, clarify meaning, and reveal underlying principles. Now, the introspection method, according to Socrates, involves a method of examining one's thought and emotions to gain self knowledge. Now, um, by doing so, we invoke reasoning. And According to Socrates, an unexamined life is not worth living. So when we do not ask, when we do not seek answers to questions, when we do not reason, we are simply like animals. And the reason why we're distinguishable from animals is because we are capable of reasoning, we are capable of thinking. All right? So it's very important. It's a very important component of the self to ask questions, okay, and to identify what is right from wrong. All right. Another philosopher that I'd like to introduce is Plato. Plato is a student of Socrates. According to Plato, the self is an immortal soul. He believes that our world replicates the ideal or material world, and that the real world is beyond our existence. Now, according to Plato, the soul is the most divine aspect of the self. Now, the components of the soul includes reason, physical or appetite, spirit or passion. Now, when we talk about reason, this enables us to think deeply and make wise decisions. Whereas the second component, which is the physical or the appetite, from the word appetite, we are craving, we're desiring for more. That's why the physical or appetite includes our desires. And these desires includes pleasure, physical satisfaction, comfort, biological needs, which includes hunger, thirst, and sex, and many more. Okay? The last component, which is the spirit or passion, includes our emotions, love, ambition, and according to Plato, it is the neutral part. Now, I'd like you to remember that the reason is actually the rational component of the soul, meaning we have the intellect to govern the physical and spirit. That our rational self is capable of controlling our appetite and our passion. Now, simply put, if we are a rational being, we can control our sexual desires. We can control these physical urges, and that we can control also our emotions. Remember, when we are governed by physical or by the appetite, we tend to shift towards pleasure and we tend to do bad things that are related to seeking pleasures. Whereas when we talk about passion, of course, we are governed by our emotions. And we all know the bad implications or the bad things that could happen when we are ruled by our emotions. So, according to Plato, our rational component, our rational soul, we should think before we act. That we should balance, what is right from what is wrong. But in the Philippines, as we say it, we Filipinos, we often say that masarap gumawa ng masama. But we all know that we need to suffer the consequences of our actions. So Plato emphasized that our rational soul, which is forged by reason and intellect, should govern the appetite and passion. All right. Now, another philosopher that I'd like to share with you is Aristotle. Aristotle is the student of Plato. Okay, now one of the famous quotation of Plato is or Aristotle is that everything in life has a soul, and the soul is the essence of the self. Now, just like Plato, there are three kinds of soul according to Aristotle. One is the vegetative, meaning the physical body that can grow. Okay, we also have the sentient, meaning the sensual desire. So this is equivalent to the physical or appetite of Plato. Okay, and the rational, which makes us human, which includes intellect. Now, to sum it up, according to Aristotle, the rational nature of the self is to lead a good and flourishing life. And in order to do that, we must seek happiness that is confined in the rules of morality. Now, when we talk about morality, we should know what is right from wrong, what is morally right and morally wrong. And as a rational being, same with Plato, Aristotle emphasized that we should use our intellect to suppress our desires. Okay? Another important proponent of the self in the philosophical perspective is Saint Augustine of Hippo. According to Saint Augustine of Hippo, the self has an immortal soul. He describes humankind as created in the image and likeness of God. Everything created by God is usually good. Now, there are two aspects according to St. Augustine. We have the imperfect, which is the earthly, which includes our earthly desires, our pleasures, and the second one is capable of reaching immortality. Now, our ultimate goal, according to St. Augustine, is to attain communion with the divine, since we are made in the image and likeness of God. Another, according to St. Augustine, the world of materials, the earth, is not our final home. And this is why in the Catholics, no, we are often taught that we should seek what is good and we should always abide by the righteousness that God has endowed us. Because we are just temporarily staying here on earth, and our goal is to go to where God is. And as according to the belief of Christianity, that is in heaven, okay? Or to the belief of others, it's our ultimate goal to be where God is, okay? Now, St. Augustine posits that the body is bound to die on earth, and the soul is to anticipate living eternally in a realm of spiritual bliss in communion with God. Now, he asserts that the goal of every human person is to again, as I've mentioned, to gain or to attain communion and bliss with the divine being. Okay, so our goal is to live with God. All right, that is the view of Saint Augustine of Hippo. Now we also have another saint, Saint Thomas of Aquinas. Now Saint Thomas of Aquinas believed that man is composed of two parts. One is matter, and the other one is form. Matter, in Greek, which is hyle, which refers to the universe of man's body. Now, matter is everything around us. Okay? Everything around us, meaning the physical things around us. The common stuff that makes up everything. Whereas the form, okay, in Greek is morphe, is the essence or substance or a thing. Okay? Form is what separates us. Okay, we have our own form and our own soul, meaning that the body of a human person is something that he shares even with animals. Okay, that's the belief of Saint Thomas of Aquinas. Okay, Rene Descartes, on the other hand, okay, doubts the existence of his own physical body. Okay, meaning, according to Rene Descartes, meaning our body is not the proof of our existence. He has this hyperbolical doubt that the mere fact that I doubt is the fact that I don't exist. Okay? So, again, these are the views of philosophers. So, we can expect philosophical thinking here. All right? Now, Rene Descartes, in his famous cogito ergo sum, meaning I think, therefore I am. So, to doubt is existence, according to doubt our existence is what Rene Descartes is thinking. And that whatever we're thinking is what we are made of. Now, there are two dimensions of human self, according to Rene Descartes. One is thinking self, and the other one is the physical self. Now, in the thinking self, this includes the non material things. These are very immortal and independent of the physical laws. Whereas, of course, the physical, these are the material, mortal, non thinking, and of course, governed by physical laws. Now, um, Rene Descartes contribute to the fact that we question a lot of things. So it's when we question, it's when we think that we are able to discover more ourselves. That's according to Rene Descartes. Okay. Now, I'm sure you are well familiar with the next philosopher, John Locke. Okay. According to John Locke, the self is conscious. He believed in the concept of memory. Okay, that's why he said that the self is conscious. Identity is explained in terms of psychological connection between life stages. Now, if you are done uh, with your other prof ed subjects like the teaching profession and others, I believe you have encountered some of the stages of life according to John Locke. Okay, according to John Locke, conscious awareness and memory of previous experiences are the keys to understanding the self, meaning thinking, reasoning, and reflection. So again, let me emphasize that to him, memory is something that's very important. Okay, and that the previous stages have the previous stages are very important in our development as a human being. Okay, because the early stages uh, are important, and it affects how we grow as a person. Okay, John Locke is also known for his very famous tabula rasa. When we say tabula rasa, John Locke mentions that we are a blank slate, and that we learn more as we grow. Okay, we acquire information, we acquire emotions, we acquire things around us, and that is what makes us a person. Okay, according to David Hume, the self is nothing else but a bundle of impressions, meaning all knowledge is derived from human senses. If you're familiar with the concept of empiricism, to see is to believe. Empiricists like David Hume believe in the power of senses. To see is to believe, to touch things, to smell. Okay, again, just involving your senses. Okay, now, experiences can be classified into impressions and ideas. Now, impressions, according to David Hume, are the primary objects of our experience or sensations. For example, when you touch a hot pot, of course, you know what will happen. Okay, you'll definitely remove your hand because of the sensation of heat. Okay, and according to David Hume, ideas are just copies of impressions, so that they are not lively or vivid. Okay, this is actually under the bundle theory of David Hume. Now, the bundle theory, please take note of this, is a theory of impressions. Okay, impressions are vivid, which is a product of direct experience, meaning that these impressions, okay, that David Hume is talking about, is actually more of an experience. Okay, we've heard about the saying, "Experience is a great teacher." Okay, it's when we experience things that we actually get an idea of the things around us. Okay, and according to David Hume, idea, okay, you keep a copy of that impression or imagination, and that idea of that impression, when you gathered it, serves as an experience that forever will be kept in your memory. All right. So that is the uh, perspective of David Hume about self. Okay. Another important philosopher is Sigmund Freud. Okay. According to Sigmund Freud, okay, of course, he has this very famous psychoanalysis or psychoanalytic theory. He believed that we have two drives. Okay. Eros, which is sex or pleasure, and we have thanatos, meaning pain or aggression. Again, Sigmund Freud believed that we have two drives. We have Eros and Thanatos. Eros meaning seeking pleasure or sex, and then we have Thanatos, meaning pain or aggression. He believed in the Victorian era where sex is not talked about. So he lived in that era. Okay. Now, Sigmund Freud also introduced the three layers of the self. We have the conscious, unconscious, and subconscious. In the conscious, we have the reality principle. Okay. These are the things that we can easily remember. These are the things that we can easily identify. These are the ideas, concepts that we can easily grab. Okay, when we think about it. Now, unconscious refers to the pleasure principle. These are basic instincts, including sexuality, self destruction, traumatic memories, and unfilled wishes. In fact, according to Sigmund Freud, a person, the true essence of a person is found in his unconscious thought. Okay? Whereas the subconscious or preconscious are easily brought to our minds. Okay? This includes, like, for example, your address, when you these are the information that you can easily access whenever you need them, like phone number, address, name of your best friend, etc. Okay? Aside from the three layers of the self, Sigmund Freud introduced the three folds of the self. We have the id, which is the center of human wants and desire, which is actually known to be the pleasure principle. Okay, the id seeks pleasure above everything else. Okay, it desires pleasure. Okay, so that's why it's known to be the pleasure principle. Okay, the ego is what we call the reality principle. Okay, it actually balances the id and the superego. All right, And the last one is the superego, which is the seat of consciousness. It is actually known to be the morality principle or the conscience principle. Okay, um, so these are the three folds of self according to Sigmund Freud. Another important philosopher is Gilbert Ryle. According to Gilbert Ryle, I act, therefore I am. Okay, the self is not an entity one can locate, according to Gilbert Ryle. It is a name we use to refer to all behavior. Okay, he believes that the self is best understood as a pattern of behavior. Therefore, when we act, that is who we really are. Okay, the tendency or disposition of a person to behave in a certain way in a certain circumstances. That is the belief of Gilbert Ryle. Okay, so I believe there's so many information that you're acquiring right now, but I hope that everything is still clear for everyone. But I'm pretty sure that at some point, what they're talking about in these perspectives are contributing to our understanding of ourselves. Okay, so next we have Maurice Merleau-Ponty. According to him, the mind and the body are so intertwined that they cannot be separated. Okay, although uh, remember um, the dualistic idea, okay, of Socrates, okay, that the mind and the body cannot be separated. Okay, that's the argument of Maurice Merleau-Ponty from the belief of Socrates. Now, he does not believe that there are two distinct part of ourselves, like the mind and the body. But according to Merleau-Ponty, they are intertwined. They are as one. Okay, that what is experienced by the body is experienced by the mind. Okay, so that is the belief of Merleau-Ponty. Now, the living body, his thoughts, emotions, and experiences are all in one. He says that the mind and body are so intertwined that they cannot be separated from one another. That is, one cannot find any experience that is not embodied experience. All experience is embodied, meaning experienced by the mind and the body. All right? One body is his or her existence in the world. The self is something that a person perennially molds, shapes, and develops. So that is according to Maurice Merleau-Ponty. Okay, next is the belief of Immanuel Kant. Okay, according to Immanuel Kant, he thinks that the things that men perceive around them are not just randomly infused into human person without organizing principles that regulates the relationship of all these impressions. Okay, simply put, according to Immanuel Kant, we construct ourselves, we build ourselves, we create ourselves, we are who we are. Okay, according to Immanuel Kant, there are two divisions of consciousness. We have the internal and the external self. The internal self, this is combining new ideas with old ideas with our mind. So we continually evolve and develop as we try to learn more things. Okay, and as we combine these ideas from the old ones, we build our internal self. Whereas the external self, of course, we are talking about the physical things, the physical world. Okay, another important philosopher is Soren Kierkegaard. He is one of the proponents of existentialism. He asserts without the self, one cannot organize the different impressions that one gets in relation to his own existence. He suggests that the self is an actively engaged intelligence in man that synthesizes all knowledge and experiences. Okay, remember when we talk about existentialism, we talk about freedom, we talk about choice, that we have, of course, when we talk about choice, okay, there is this responsibility. We should be responsible with our choices. Okay, that is Soren Kierkegaard. Okay, okay, we're down to our last two philosophers. Second to the last one is George Wilhelm Hegel. According to Hegel, the rational alone is real, meaning what is in our mind, what we think, okay, is real. He believes that we do not perceive the world or anything in it directly, and all our minds have access to ideal words. We have images, perception, and concepts. Simply put, it's what's in our mind, what we think, what we imagine, that is real. Okay? And the last one, we have Karl Marx. Okay, remember, Karl Marx thought that the human beings attained what he called self actualization through the process of imagining and creating the products that created their environment. Now, remember, Marx defined human nature as the ability to autonomously create through work one's self identity and fulfills one's destiny. Okay, human beings must work in order to survive in any social class. Okay, and that he also introduced the concept of social alienation, that the social relationship between individual and group of people in the community. Okay, so these are all the philosophical perspectives that covers the understanding of self. Now, I'm pretty sure that you do not agree to all of them, but there are also some philosophers um, where you cling on or where you lean on. Okay, meaning you believe, you have similar perspectives about the self. Bottom line is that we use all of these perspectives in order for us to gain deeper understanding of ourselves. And these are guides that would help us, okay, discover and live a much more meaningful life. So thank you very much for listening and thank you for your participation. I'll see you in our next discussion.